right, Saxophunk by, well, wow, Joyce Spencer. She's doing that saxophonist. You know, women can do any and everything they want to do. You know, they can play a saxophone. They can be attorneys. So they can be judges. They can be lawyers, Supreme Court justices. They can be all of those things and more. And they also can be a guest on the Commish radio show. Have Michelle McKinney. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing fine. It's been a little while since you've been on the show.
It has.
Last time you sneaked up on me on the show. This time we saw you coming this time. So, hey, what do you think about the show, how we did it? You saw the whole show from beginning to where you're sitting at right now. So what do you think about it?
I like it. I like the fact that people have the opportunity to inform the community about upcoming events. I think it's very important.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's why we have you here as well. Now, you ran for office. What'd you run for?
I ran for family court judge, district judge in Dallas County.
Okay. How'd you do?
I did not win, but I did very well. It was a write-in candidacy, and I had over 18,000 votes, which was beyond my wildest dreams, actually.
18,000 votes. I'll take credit for 17,999. You can take credit for that one. But no, but thank you for coming on the show, and congratulations on it. That is outstanding, 18,000. What'd you learn from that campaign?
What I learned from that campaign is how important it is, how important it is. Sometimes we take it for granted, the roles that we have as attorneys, and we're advocates, and how we have the power to make change. And there are a lot of people in the community who don't have that voice. And so what I learned is that it's important to cultivate those relationships. Like right now, what I'm committed to is going back to these communities and organizations that I went to asking for their vote, but going back now, not with any motive other than to just get to know them and find some causes that I can be passionate about and see if I can use my gift in a way that elevates other people.
Now, why did you decide to become a lawyer, an attorney?
Well, initially I majored in social work in undergrad, and I realized that I wasn't going to have the power to make change as I would as a family law or an attorney, period.
So where'd you go to school at?
I went to Rutgers University for undergrad, and then I went to the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville for my law school degree.
What's the difference between Rutgers and University of Arkansas?
Well,
outside of the fact one is obviously in New Jersey, folks, they know I knew where that was at, right? New Jersey, right?
Right. Well, it was a very interesting time. When I was at Rutgers, that's when Ray Rice was there. The team was very good. There was a lot of pride and excitement about that team. The entire community, really, dry cleaners had the signs up there and everything, and it got to the point where you had to go through a lottery system just to be able to go to a game as a student. But I met some good professors. It's a very special time in my heart because that was, well, first of all, I was a athlete myself.
What'd you play?
I did track and field. I'm a state champion in shot put and discus. And what was so special about going to college was to find out that I wasn't just an athlete, but that I had intelligence as well. You know, I had always been known for my athletic ability, and when I first got to college, it was very difficult because people just didn't focus on that with me. But I got to find out that I was more than just an athlete, and it was actually when you asked me why did I become a lawyer, the truth is a professor saw something in me at Rutgers and said, he said, kid, you just need to keep going, you've got something.
Now, New Jersey, Arkansas. I mean, you're on the where are you from?
I'm from Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why Arkansas then?
Well, I got a scholarship, and so that's very
okay.
important.
That'll do it right there. That'll do it right there.
Yeah.
That'll do it right there. So when you got to Arkansas, did you have like culture shock?
I did have. They had something called tumbleweed. It's a lot more developed now than it was. You know, Arkansas, Fayetteville is a college town, but you fly into Bentonville, and basically what's out there was Walmart at the time. And when I got there, I was like, what is this?
Wait a minute.
I was like, panicked.
Fayetteville is the University of Arkansas is in Fayetteville.
Is in Fayetteville.
How far is Fayetteville from Little Rock?
I don't even remember.
Is it far?
2 hours.
Okay, it's 2 hours away. That's a long time.
Don't quote me on that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm not on. we're not in the courtroom. We're not being exact, but 2 hours Fayetteville, and then that's like in the country, ain't it?
Well, my joke is that people, well, I need to be careful, right? But you know, the students were telling me, I gotta take you to Little Rock because I was a city kid, you know, and looking at, is this all there is? And but what I would need to say is, secretly, I actually fell in love with Fayetteville, Arkansas, Ozark Mountains, Eureka Springs. It's a beautiful place to raise a family, to study, and I try to go back when I can.
All right, I have a special love for Arkansas. That's where my folks are from. They're from Texarkana. So yep. So now from Fayetteville to Dallas.
Yes.
How'd you get to Dallas?
Well, when I was in Arkansas, it was challenging because I didn't really have a church. Well, first of all, law school was a very difficult time. I had my daughter with me as a single mother in law school.
Wow.
And I had been listening to T.D. Jakes. And we had an ice storm in Arkansas while I was in law school, and over the radio they said that the power could be out from anywhere to 7 to 10 days, and we're like, 7 to 10 days? And that was dynamic for me because in New Jersey we went to school in the snow, like we still went. And so to hear that something could happen that would have us with no power for 7 to 10 days, one of the girls who went to law school with me invited me to come to Dallas because that's where she was from. And that's where T.D. Jakes' church was from. So I was like, yeah, cool. I want to go. And so I came and I went to the Potter's house, and, you know, I just felt like once I really, you know, he has been very impactful in my life. But the bottom line is, when I graduated from law school, I didn't have an offer. And it was very expensive to try to go back to New Jersey. And so really, it's a faith walk. I felt like if I got under that word, going to the Potter's house and listening to T.D. Jakes, that things would fall in place, and they have.
So faith is very important to you.
Yes.
And you walked out on faith.
I did walk out on faith.
And you're an attorney here in Dallas. How long you been in Dallas now?
11 years.
11 years, okay. So what is your specialty?
Family law is my specialty. And more specific than that, I like to work with fathers.
Fathers?
Yes. You know, there's a myth out here that says that there are deadbeat dads, and I'm sure there are, but by majority, that is not the case. Just random, the majority of the clients that I had in my early practice were men, and was men who wanted to stand up and just be a part of their child's life, and for one reason or another, many times because of the way that relationship with that mother that they share the child with ended, they're not able to see the child. And then that, coupled with the way some of the laws are, or the way the law is administered, many men find themselves not able to have as much time with their child as they'd like to. And so I'm a huge advocate for that.
Why?
Well, maybe because I'm a daddy's girl.
Okay.
Maybe because I know what's possible.
Now, have you received any pushback from women because you?
Well, I always give that disclaimer that.
I mean, obviously, men would say,
important.
"Okay, it's about time somebody look out for us," you know.
Well, here's what's interesting about
What's that?
men. Men have the man that they love. They have sons who have the same experience. So I feel like this whole issue with child support, child custody, every family is affected in some way or another. It could happen to your grandson. So it's not so much as to be about men's rights, it's just about human rights.
So how do you let's talk about grandparents, because it seems like a lot of grandparents are involved in raising their grandchildren.
Yes.
Do grandparents have rights?
Not inherently. Something has to happen. The belief is that if a man and woman separate, the father is supposed to get some kind of visitation. In Texas, they usually get standard visitation, which is every other weekend. And the belief is when that person has their visit, their family would see the child during that parent's time. The time when grandparents get rights is something like when one of the parents is incarcerated, or maybe CPS comes along and has removed the child from that environment with their parents. Then grandparents at that point, because the parents are not available, that's when they have rights. But if there's two healthy parents, then a grandparent can't come in and sue for custody or something like that.
Okay, so let me see if I got this right. if someone goes to jail
Mm-hmm.
and the grandparent wants to see the child,
Right.
then they can have the right to see the child?
Yes, I mean, hopefully you can just go to that mother and say, hey, because they would have already had an existing relationship. But if they do not, and if mom says no, a grandparent can go to court and petition the court for visitation.
I got one word to say about that. Damn.
That's real.
I didn't know that.
It happens.
I didn't know that. No, nobody says that.
Yeah, there's
That's the
a
reason why you guys
presumption
come to
that-
this show to
yeah,
hear that kind of
There's a
thing.
presumption that parents act in the best interest of the child, but there's also a presumption that that child can benefit from both sides of their family.
That should be that
Right.
way. Okay. Now, in family court, you practice in family court. How many family courts do we have?
We have 7 family courts in Dallas County.
7 in Dallas County?
7 districts,
Okay. So when a person goes to family court and you're dealing with fathers and rights, and I understand there's a organization, Texas Fathers for Equal Rights.
Right.
What do they do?
Well, Fathers for Equal Rights is a organization that I have volunteered for in the past. And, you know, one of the things they do is because the Attorney General plays a very interesting role in the parent-child relationship. They will go after the child support. So in a scenario where, let's just say mom has custody of the child and she needs to get child support, the Attorney General will represent that mother for free to get the child support started. But on the flip side, there are issues for the father where maybe he's not getting the visitation. Well, the Attorney General doesn't represent the father for free to help him get visitation. So that's what one of the things that Father for Equal Rights does is assist the fathers to navigate through the legal system so that they can bring a case and get the child visitation that they're entitled to. That's one of the things they do. Another thing that they do is they'll help people with the forms. They can't go into court and represent them, but what Fathers for Equal Rights does is recruit volunteers such as myself. But either way, it's sometimes the regular person could represent themselves in court if they just had good information, and that's something that Fathers for Equal Rights facilitates.
So how long have we had Fathers for Equal Rights?
Fathers for Equal Rights has been around since I started practicing law, so I'd have to say at least 9 of my 11 years I've known about Fathers for Equal Rights.
Okay. Let's talk about child support. Does child support ever go away?
Does it go away?
Right, because I'm just saying, I know of people who say that they're paying for a child and the child is like 30-something years old.
Well, that's because they have some kind of arrears. So the only way,
Oh, okay.
number one, or the child has a disability. So in the state of Texas, the child support obligation ends at the age of 18 and when the child graduates high school, 18 and high school. So if the child turns 18 in January but they don't graduate until May, that child support obligation continues until the child graduates. But in order for it to go past that threshold, the child had to be found to have a disability while the child is under 18, and then it could go on actually indefinitely at that point. But if the average scenario is that a man has gotten behind or a person has gotten behind in their child support, and the only real chance they have to start to catch up on it is once the normal child support ends at 18. So just think about if somebody had to pay $500 a month in child support, they can't afford to address any arrears. All they might be able to give is the $500. But when the child turns 18 and that current obligation becomes 0, then they start to put
pay
the $500
arrears.
or the $200 towards whatever.
So it
is
goes
still
to
owed.
it goes
Yes.
to the mother,
Yes.
until they.
Until it's 0, or many times one of the things or the benefit of hiring a lawyer is to try to facilitate to see if you can settle on an amount. You know, like it doesn't have, if you owe $7,699, if mom is willing to take $2,500 as a lump sum, there's a mechanism to zero out that child support if the parties are in agreement.
So you can zero out, huh?
Yes, as long as none of the money is owed to the Attorney General, the person can forgive the money.
See, a lot of men listen to this show that they're gonna like you, and some other people they may not like you. That's the reason why I asked. I mean, do you catch flack?
Yeah. Many bad things have happened with the Attorney General's office. That whole child support experience, it's especially if you go in there not represented, because the biggest mistake people make who have a child support obligation is that when child support first starts, what if you were making $20 an hour, $25 an hour? And what if that changes? You become unemployed, you start to make $12 an hour. You have a right to go back to court and do what's called a modification, asking the judge to lower your child support based on what your new income actually is. And that's the number one reason why people fall behind in child support in the first place, is because they're being obligated to an amount that they can no longer live up to for one reason or another, and they don't know that they need to come back to court and ask the court to change it.
Well, any other changes in the family law?
Well, one other thing that's interesting that I'd like to mention is the situation with incarceration. I say a lot of funny things about the Attorney General's office, but one thing that they did do is that if somebody is incarcerated and they have a current child support obligation at the moment that they are incarcerated, they can petition the court to stay their child support. Their child support can become zero while they're incarcerated, so they're not stacking up all that debt, all that arrears, while they're in jail or prison and have no ability to address it. So that's an important change.
So that's a change that's just got started?
I would say within the past 4 or 5 years.
Past 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
So before that,
it was not.
Before that, if you were in jail, a person was incarcerated, they were still liable for that?
That is correct, because what we have here is there is no such thing as zero child support. Somebody who doesn't work and you are brought to court for child support, the judge will treat you as if you're making minimum wage, whether you're making it or not. So nobody has zero.
Okay, so somebody's unemployed or somebody's
right.
basically working off the books, so to speak. They have one of those jobs that they work off the books.
Well, we try to go after those folks off the books, but if we can't prove it, yes.
Yeah.
The minimum is a minimum wage order, so they treat you, if minimum wage is $7.25, whatever the number is, the child support is based on that, whether you have it or not.
Okay.
But what's different is if you're incarcerated, then that doesn't hold. You can ask the court to make your child support zero.
Now, a person's in jail, counselor, or in prison, so they petition, well, the court, because they say, look, I'm in prison, I'm in Huntsville right now, I can't pay this. So I wonder how often that actually happens. I mean, there's no kind of deal. I mean,
I don't know that they know of it, and I don't know for certain, to be honest with you, what if they let the 5 years go by, they get all that arrears within the 5 years, and when they come out and have the ability to go in, will they look retroactively? I don't know that they do.
Retroactively, yeah.
I don't know that they do. You'd have to have that petition on file with the court.
Right, because if someone gets out and they say, well, I'm out, and then they start working, if they could get a job, because sometimes you can't get a job once you're in, and that's another portion of our system that we have in America. So you're fortunate enough to get a job, and then someone starts garnishing your wages then.
Yeah, and my hope is that's when you kind of try to mediate with that mother who's been holding all of the responsibility while that person's been gone, in our example, and because she knows you don't have it, and hope that you guys could work out a number that both of you can live with.
Okay.
I mean, that's the hope.
All right. Any other comments you want to make while we're here? I know this has been somewhat abbreviated because we covered what's in the news earlier.
Well, just what's in the news. I wasn't really going to comment from that nature because I was watching your show, the whole Tennessee Free thing. But I have to be careful just with some things that I do that I can't. But, what's important is, we've come a long way, but we have a long ways to go when it comes to, because we talk about it's not about skin color, it's about justice. But even in the family law arena, minorities still today many times get a different experience because of the bigger issues. Because it's just like you're saying with the CPS case, or it still comes back to the pressures that's put on somebody. We talked about the person who gets out of jail and he's got this child support obligation, and the problems with that is he comes out, he's got this felony, many times he can't get a good job, right? And so that's what causes him to be tempted to go back to whatever that old behavior was that put him in this position in the first place. Or even if he's trying to do something, He can't get the job because of the record, and here comes all the child support obligations. It puts people in a place of defeat, and that's what I encounter many times. It's so much more than just being a lawyer. It's about being a counselor. It's about speaking life into people. It's the opportunities that I get are very interesting, and I just understand that what I may take for granted is something very important and vital to someone else. Just coming into a room, somebody encounters me at Fathers for Equal Rights, and I'm able to say, don't give up. Here's what I can do. Have you tried this? And give people hope.
That's what this show's about, giving people hope.
Yeah.
So we thank you for coming on the show and everything, and we want you to come back.
Okay.
We want you to come back.
Yes.
How can they reach you?
Yeah, so since the campaign, I have now become a senior attorney at Godwin and Bowman, which is a very prestigious law firm downtown, and I am in the family law section. And one of the things I've been tasked to do is to come out in this community and engage with some of the very people that I met along the campaign trail, let them know about what we're offering. I'm out here to help different organizations, sororities, churches, nonprofit organizations that need sponsors. That's something that I have the ability to do. One of the goals for me is to offer resources to people who have a well thought out objective and are going to actually walk the walk. We're here to help. And so that's something I'm excited to do in the community, and what I want to come back and talk about more.
Okay. We want to put you on the circuit here, have you come back again and again and again. I mean, let's make it work and everything, because we have a lot to talk about. We can get into more specifics about the law. It's always changing, but you gave us a brief overview, and you covered a lot of things in the time that you were here. Things that I was taking notes. I was just taking notes. So I appreciate you for coming on.
And I appreciate you giving me that opportunity.
All right. Thank you. I
Always a
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thank you. Angelo, that was a pretty good show, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yep, it was. It was. So let's play some nice music on out. Let's have some more of Joyce Spencer, who is our musician for the hour. If you happen to have some MP3s that you can send, we would love to have them here, because, as you know, we highlight local news in music, because you're listening to the Commish Nation Network, because we're always in your hood. The best radio show from Como to the Congo. Why? Because what? The champ is here.
Is here.
All right. All right, Angelo.